Today, I talk about roundtables, balancing college and video games, and I read you some poetry. Welcome to Mind Games TV, episode 43. I know it's not November yet, but I'm still, getting a little scruffy because I'm trying to counteract this freezing air out here. I don't really want my face burned when I walk into work. Although today, it got above 0, so that was pretty nice. Celsius, sorry, all my fellow Americans who are kind of used to the Fahrenheit thing. I've kicked that habit a while ago. So I realized today that ever since episode 39, I have been talking into a plugged-in microphone, which was not selected in the preferences. So I was actually recording from the crummy computer mic. So 39, 40, 41, 42, you guys persevered strongly. So here we are in 43, and we hopefully have good sound going on. Any other announcements for today? Not much going on, just enjoying the show. Love getting to talk about more than one topic in a day. Trying to go a little bit more in depth. I know there's some of you that like shorter stuff, some of you that like longer stuff, but some of these topics are really complex. You just can't deal with them in, a 1 minute tip. And so I think I'm going to cater toward, appreciating everybody's intellect and dealing with the concepts a little more in depth. So that you kind of not only do you have a tip of how you can apply yourself, but also you understand the framework underneath of why it operates that way so that you can actually make effective change in your behavior. Okay, so let's get into the show.
Sebastian asks, I want to know how to keep a team focused when someone makes a huge mistake and they lose morale and try to blame the player that makes the mistake.
Okay, Sebastian, so first of all, you win the prize because that's my son's name, so that rocks. Good choice, picking that name to be born with. Then secondly, your question. So I assume that basically you want to recover mid-competition and try to keep the morale of the team up when the player made the mistake. And in that case, you need people whose role it is in the team to kind of take leadership in those moments and get everybody focused on the task. You want present focus, task focused. When you have past focus or future focus, where you're thinking like, oh my God, we're going to lose, or oh my God, that stupid mistake, if only, or you have like a focus on the self, like I screwed up. The thing you need to do is get somebody who's narrating the present, getting people pulled back into their absorption of like the task of winning the game. So that's how you deal with it in the moment. Now, dealing with it in the training environment, I think that my favorite technique is to allow the player to confess their mistake. So the technique that I like to use is called a round table discussion. That's what I've labeled it. And essentially, it tries to equalize or level the playing field for everybody so that there's an equality of power and so that everybody has to share a mistake. So essentially, you sit in a circle or you take turns, whatever, decide on the circle. And then each person gets the same amount of time. And they have to answer 2 questions. And the 2 questions are usually something like, what was a mistake you just made in the previous game? Or what was your biggest mistake that you just made in that previous game? And then some other second question that is humanizing. So one that makes your teammates see you as a human being rather than as a teammate. So something like, tell us something that nobody else here knows about you. Or what was the first time you ever played a video game? Or tell us a memory from your childhood related to swimming or water or something like that. So essentially the idea here is you want to clear the air that you have this person who knows he made a mistake, is guilty about it, doesn't want to be confronted about it because when you confront him, then that turns on the defensive mode, right? They're like trying to defend their ego instead of being vulnerable and learning from it, like keeping the learning neurons activated. So And there's not like learning neurons, okay? But the idea is keeping a learning mindset, like an open mindset, and trying to internally change versus trying to defend yourself against people and rationalize your mistake away so that you don't actually, apply yourself to fixing it. Okay, so The way this works is everybody confesses a mistake, and that person confesses the mistake they made, and that helps clear the air. He gets to admit what he did and apologize in a way by saying, like, sorry, this is the mistake I did. At the same time, he's not singled out, or she's not singled out from everybody else. So it's a more conducive atmosphere to mental growth. And everybody else also gets to realize that they, too, made errors in the match. And also everybody sees kind of their teammates again as humans and gets kind of the individual, like, I was hurt by you out of the equation, and more like, oh, we're all people. And we were people before this world came along, like this esport world, and we're going to be people, after we retire. And that's like the continuation here. So that is the tactic that I like to use in the training environment to try to like keep up morale and keep away blame.
Ben asks, how do I reach a productive balance playing video games and college work? What would be your advice on how to make sure I reach the grades I need while still enjoying playing video games and climbing the League of Legends ladder?
Okay, Ben. So this is a very good question, and I'm probably not the best person to answer it since I almost failed out of college due to playing too much Counter-Strike. So I'm not sure that... Okay, I did learn from that, so maybe I am the right person to give advice for this question. But my first question, or my first suggestion, is that you understand why it is you want the grade. Why do you actually want to have the grade in the first place? Because you can use that want, that thing that you value, that you desire, to power your sacrifice, to power the ability to turn off the game and do what you want. So get some self-awareness, get some self-clarity, understand why it is you want the grade, why it is you want the class, why it is you want the education, how that plays into your future, or your like path, okay? Then I would try to understand, okay, first of all, you can enjoy playing video games any amount of time. So you don't need to play a lot in order to get enjoyment. What you need to do is maximize your enjoyment of the moments you get to play. And for that, you have to understand that climbing a ranked ladder takes a certain amount of skill progression. And a certain amount of skill progression takes a certain amount of time. So if you want to climb like from tactical expertise meaning like in-game knowledge of like matchups and movements and when you should trade and what route you should run for B bomb site and stuff like that, you need to study the game. You need to practice those tactics. If you want to climb strategically up the ladder, then you need to learn overarching strategies of war. And this is useful for the college environment because you can study these things kind of alongside your class. You can make observations in philosophy class. You can make observations in art class. You can study literature in English class, and you can apply all of it to strategy, to philosophy, and to warfare, and to combat. And all of those lessons can be used to kind of like mature your game and cause you to increase rank just from the decisions that you make, being wiser. Okay, then the third, if you want to climb mechanically, then you need to grind. This takes the hours to rewire the motor neurons, and you can do it more efficiently, and I recommend that you do it as efficient as possible, but you still have to put in, you're still going to lose to people who put in 6+ hours a day of effective training. That's just the way it is. So be content with the sacrifices you've made to get where you are now. Most of us will win a gold medal and look in the mirror, or like a silver medal and look in the mirror and be like, oh, it's not gold, instead of like enjoying the hours and hours of striving that we put in every single day of our life to get to that point. So look at your ranking now and like feel contentment and gratitude towards the sacrifices you made to get where you are. Or be happy with the sacrifice that's going to get you what you want. So if you get a lower grade, but you do actually manage to put in the time, like you have to appreciate that sacrifice and then what you're giving up for it. So yeah, myself in college, I played Counter-Strike a lot, and I used seasonal goals. So I set a goal like I want to be rank 1 in the ladder because we had this guy who was nationally ranked on our campus. So I wanted to be like rank 1 on the campus ladder, and I got to that point. I strove, and I like stat padded and all the stuff you would need to do to get to, beat somebody who's actually probably better than you and outrank him. And then I got there, and then, won the satisfaction, and then moved on to the next thing. So I would recommend seasonal kind of goals, like something's coming up where you're going to have a break, and you arrange your life to dedicate yourself to something that will bring you satisfaction long term, and you pursue it. And if you fail, you refine it, and if you succeed, you celebrate it, and then you like go back. So take this very seasonal kind of like work hard on this, put that away, come back to it later, and really dig in. Now, I'm telling you that actually setting aside the game for a while might be beneficial to your motor skill training, because you can come at it with rusty like movements, and that allows you to more quickly learn better stuff, because you don't have to erase as the things you want to erase are not as ground in. So consider that as well.
Khaled asks, as a support, how do I maximize team cooperation? How do I stop people from trolling or flaming instead of participating?
Okay, thank you for the question. This is a really good question, because I struggle with it a lot when people are trolling or flaming, and I just want them to participate in the game, because we have a pretty good shot of winning, and then they don't, because they're annoyed and they don't see that we could win it. So the way that I address this is through passion. You don't want to reside in potential future realities. That's not where you want to live your life, because you will only be unsatisfied as you progress. You have to confine yourself to the present. So I'm stealing from Aurelius here. Or like from the passionate aspect, if I'm going to use that word, I'll steal from Dylan Thomas when he says, do not go gentle into that good night. But essentially, the self-talk I want you to do is to say, who cares about what they do? Do you want to get to the end of the game and regret the time you spent? Do you want to get to the end of the game and give them the power over the last 40 minutes of your life? Like, it's your choice. It's actually your choice whether or not they have that power or not. Yes, they're in those 40 minutes with you. And it feels horrible when somebody disconnects and you're like, wow, you ruined 40 minutes of my life with that choice. But it's actually your choice. You can choose to fight, to strive, to give every last inch of your potential aggression, and to lose the game as they trample over your exhausted and spent champion, right? You can scrape for every single inch and optimize your play. Or you can give them the power to waste your time, and you can define your experience by their, by like victory and defeat, and by some sort of like potential perfect kind of play out that you want. And you can reside, inside your own mind instead of like in the reality that exists right now, the one that you're facing. So I cannot even count the number of times that my passionate effort has reignited my teammate or caused a revival where the fact that I was silent and stubborn and just like not throwing the game, but trying and striving with every ounce to like gain maximum disruption with minimum loss. And that actually won over a lot of trolls and flamers and helped them recover from that like very wretched state that they were in. And so I think that the answer to this question really kind of lies within each of us. It's not something you can do to them. It's kind of like a giving up of power, or maybe taking the power back from them and kind of just like saying, this is my life, this is my experience, I can experience it however I like. And losing the game doesn't really matter. Winning the game doesn't really matter. And so what does matter is the amount of joy you get out of the experience that you're currently having. And so just throwing yourself into that passionately, that's the thing that we always want. And gratitude is a great way to appreciate that. I've talked about this before. Training gratitude is an essential characteristic of passion and joy. And that's something that I've dedicated myself to, training gratitude every morning. Again, I use the 5-minute journal. You can find that on mindgames.gg/tools. But I think one of the funniest encounters I had was when I was training Copenhagen Wolves, and their support Unlimited said, you know what, this sounds a lot like, I think it was Hunter x Hunter, or an anime where Netero was out in the wilderness, training, and he decided he would do 10,000 punches of gratitude. And he did that for like several years and then became perfect. And he spent basically all of his time in gratitude training. And that might be very motivating to you. So go check out that YouTube clip. I'll put it in the description or whatever, or you can search it out on Google. And that particular moment of that anime is actually grounded in very fundamentally good psychology. And I think that it would help you in that moment to kind of gear up that passion. So thank you so much for the questions today. Thank you for the fantastic amount of intensity that's been brought to the show by your guys' participation. I really appreciate it. If you have not asked a question yet, what are you doing? Like, come up with something, anything, and tweet it out, Instagram it to me with a video or a comment, or go to mindgames.gg/TV and put it in the form there. Remember to use the hashtag AskWeldon and to provide your Twitter handle or Instagram if you're not doing it, if you're doing it on the form, if you want a shout out of some sort. Yeah, so that is my call. I need your questions to make this show awesome. And remember, if we get more and more questions, then I actually get to pick the best ones instead of having to do all of them, which, okay, that's sad for some people who won't get their questions, but it's good for you guys, the listeners, because you get to hear good stuff. And yeah, then the other people get to realize their question was not, maybe was already previously answered or something like that, and they'll go looking for it. So I want to end with the poem, actually, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. So this is a good time to run away screaming if you don't like poetry. It's not going to be that long, maybe 30 seconds maximum. But this was written by Dylan Thomas when his father was going blind. And you can interpret it however you like. It could be about death or life or just the striving of, kind of against the world and the joy that brings you, the meaning that it brings to your life when you're kind of like trying to change your mindset from being defined by what happens to you and change it to what it is that you do with your own experience. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at the close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieve it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.